Well, good morning, friends. Happy Sunday. Good to be with you today. West Tennessee Dave here. Hope you are doing well. Actually, let me pull this a little bit closer here. There we go. That's a little better. Hope you're well. It is 6:33 in the morning. We're live to you on Twitch and coming to you later on a VOD on YouTube or Twitch. Good to see you all. I'm glad you're here today, whether you're lurking, whether you're talking in person. Hi, welcome. Okay, today we're going to start reading the book of Nehemiah. And this is one of my favorite books in the Bible, honestly. Just it has some personal application to me back in the day, and really like this storyline. Um, Hi, Asibla. Good morning. Welcome. Really like this storyline. It follows right on the path of Ezra. We finished the book of Ezra last time we read, and so Ezra was the story of people coming back to the land of Israel, but mostly into the Judah territory in Jerusalem, and then trying to rebuild the temple. Today, this is a book that Bible scholars call contemporary, meaning at the same time frame. So this story happens kind of at the same time frame as the book of Ezra. Basically from the return of people to Jerusalem and Judah from Babylon. And it's kind of Nehemiah's story of returning. So that's where we're at. We kind of heard his name briefly in the book of Ezra, but we're going to get into what that really means, what his storyline is, and what he's about. So, with that, let's get started. Let me get some water, and we'll fire away. Read the first five chapters today. These are the memoirs of Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah. In late autumn, in the month of Kislev, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes' reign, I was at the fortress of Susa. Hanani, one of my brothers, came to visit me with some other men who had just arrived from Judah. I asked them about the Jews who had returned from their captivity and about how things were going in Jerusalem. They said to me, "Things are not going well for those who return to the province of Judah. They are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem has been torn down, and the gates have been destroyed by fire." When I heard this, I sat down and wept. In fact, for days I mourned, fasted, and prayed to the God of heaven. Then I said, "O Lord, God of heaven, the great and awesome God who keeps his covenant and unfailing love with those who love him and obey his commands, listen to my prayer. Look down and see me praying night and day for your people Israel. I confess that we have sinned against you. Yes, even my own family and I have sinned. We have sinned terribly by not obeying the commands, decrees, and regulations that you gave us through your servant Moses. Please remember what you told your servant Moses. If you are unfaithful to me, I will scatter you among the nations. But if you return to me and obey my commands and live by them, then even if you are exiled to the ends of the earth, I will bring you back to the place I have chosen for my name to be honored. The people you rescued by your great power and strong hand are your servants, O Lord. Please hear my prayer. Listen to the prayers of those of us who delight in honoring you. Please grant me success today by making the king favorable to me. Put it into his heart to be kind to me. In those days, I was the king's cupbearer. Early the following spring, in the 20th month of Nisan, during the 20th year of King Artaxerxes' reigns, I was serving the king his wine. I had never before appeared sad in his presence. So the king asked me, "Why are you looking so sad? You don't look sick to me. You must be deeply troubled." Then I was terrified, but I replied, "Long live the king! How can I not be sad? For the city where my ancestors are buried is in ruins, and the gates have been destroyed by fire." The king asked, "Well, how can I help you?" With a prayer to the God of heaven, I replied, If it please the king, and if you are pleased with me, your servant, send me to Judah to rebuild the city where my ancestors are buried." The king, with the queen sitting beside him, asked, "How long will you be gone? When will you return?" After I told him how long I would be gone, the king agreed to my request. I also said to the king, "If it please the king, let me have letters addressed to the governors of the province west of the Euphrates River, instructing them to let me travel safely through their territories on my way to Judah. And please give me a letter addressed to Asaph, the manager of the king's forest, instructing him to give me timber. I will need it to make beams for the gates of the temple fortress, for the city walls, and for a house for myself." And the king granted these requests because the gracious hand of God was on me. When I came to the governors of the province west of the Euphrates River, I delivered the king's letters to them. The king, I should add, had sent along army officers and horsemen to protect me. But when Sanballat and the Horonite and Tobiah, the Ammonite official, heard of my arrival, they were very displeased that someone had come to help the people of Israel. So I arrived in Jerusalem 3 days later. I slipped out during the night, taking only a few others with me. I had not told anyone about the plans God had put in my heart for Jerusalem. We took no pack animals with us except the donkey I was riding. After dark, I went out through the valley gate, past the Jackal's Wall, and over the Dung Gate to inspect the broken walls and burned gates. Then I went to the fountain gate and to the king's pool, but my donkey couldn't get through the rubble. So, though it was still dark, I went up the Kidron Valley instead, inspecting the wall before I turned back and entered again at the valley gate. The city officials did not know I had been out there or what I was doing, for I had not yet said anything to anyone about my plans. I had not yet spoken to the Jewish leaders, the priests, the nobles, the officials, or anyone else in the administration. But now I said to them, "You know very well what trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been destroyed by fire. Let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem and end this disgrace." Then I told them about the gracious hand of God had been on me, and about my conversation with the king. They replied at once, "Yes, let's rebuild the wall." So they began the good work. But when Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem, the Arab, heard of our plan, they scoffed contemptuously. "What are you doing? Are you rebelling against the king?" they asked. I replied, "The God of heaven will help us succeed. We, his servants, will start rebuilding this wall, but you have no share, legal right, or historic claim in Jerusalem." Then Eliashib, the high priest, and the other priests started to rebuild at the sheep gate. They dedicated it and set up its doors, rebuilding the wall as far as the Tower of the 100, which they dedicated, and the Tower of Hananiel. People from the town of Jericho worked next to them, and beyond them was Zakur, son of Imri. The fish gate was built by the sons of Hassenaah. They laid the beams, set up its doors, and installed its bolts and bars. Heramoth, son of Uriah and grandson of Hakaz, repaired the next section of wall. Beside him were Meshullam, son of Berechiah, the grandson of Meshzabel, and then Zadok, son of Banah. Next were the people of Tekoa, though their leaders refused to work with the construction supervisors. The old city gate was repaired by Jehoiada, son of Paseah, and Meshullam, son of Besodiah. They laid the beams, set up its doors, and installed its bolts and bars. Next to them were Meletai from Gibeon, Jadon from Meronoth, people from Gibeon, and people from Mizpah, the headquarters of the governor of the province west of the Euphrates River. Next was Uzziel, son of Herahiah, a goldsmith by trade, who also worked on the wall. Beyond him was Hananiah, a manufacturer of perfumes. They left out a section of Jerusalem as they built the broad wall. Raphiah, son of Hur, the leader of half the district of Jerusalem, was next to them on the wall. Next, Jedediah, son of Haramupah, repaired the wall across from his own house. Next to him was Hattush, son of Hashabaniah, Then came Malchijah, son of Harim, and Hashub, son of Pahath Moab, who repaired another section of the wall and the tower of the ovens. Shallum, son of Halohesh, and his daughters repaired the next section. He was the leader of the other half of the district of Jerusalem. The valley gate was repaired by the people of Zanoah, led by Hanun. They set up its doors and installed its bolts and bars. They also repaired the 1,500 feet of the wall to the dung gate. The dung gate was repaired by Malchijah, son of Rechab, the leader of the Beth Hakkerem district. He rebuilt it, set up its doors, and installed its bolts and bars. The fountain gate was repaired by Shallum, son of Kolhozah, the leader of the Mizpah district. He rebuilt it, roofed it, set up its doors, and installed its bolts and bars. Then he repaired the wall of the pool of Shalom near the king's garden, and he rebuilt the wall as far as the stairs that descent from the city of David. Next to him was Nehemiah, son of Azbuk, the leader of half the district of Beth Zur. He rebuilt the wall from a place across from the tombs of David's family as far as the water reservoir and the house of warriors. Next to him, repairs were made by a group of Levites working under the supervision of Rehum, son of Bani. Then came Hashabai, the leader of the half-district of Kaliah, who supervised the building of the wall on behalf of his own district. Next down the line were his countrymen led by Benui, son of Henadad, the leader of the other half of the district of Kaliah. Next to them, Ezer, son of Jeshua, the leader of Mizpah, repaired another section of wall across from the ascent to the armory near the angle in the wall. Next to him was Baruch, son of Zabbai, who zealously repaired an additional section from the angle to the door of the house of Eliashib the high priest. Meremoth, son of Uriah, and grandson of Hakkoz, rebuilt another section of the wall extending from the door of Eliashib's house to the end of the house. The next repairs were made by the priests from the surrounding region. After then, Benjamin and Hashub repaired the section across from their house, and Azariah, son of Maaseiah, and grandson of Anaiah, repaired the section across from his house. Good morning, Eric. Hello. Next was Benui, son of Henadad, who rebuilt another section of the wall from Azariah's house to the angle in the corner. Palel, son of Uzai, carried on the work from a point opposite the angle and the tower that projects up from the king's upper house beside the court of the guard. Next to him were Pedaiah, son of Parosh, with the temple servants living on the hill of Ophel, who repaired the wall as far as the point across from the water gate to the east and the projecting tower. Then came the people of Tekoa, who repaired another section across from the great projecting tower and over to the wall of Ophel. Above the horse gate, the priests repaired the wall. Each one repaired the section immediately across from his own house. Next, Zadok, son of Immer, also rebuilt the walls across from his own house, and beyond him, Shemaiah, son of Shechaniah, the gatekeeper of the east gate. Next, Hananiah, son of Shelemiah, and Hanun, the sixth son of Zelaph, repaired another section, while Meshullam, son of Berechiah, rebuilt the wall across from where he lived. Malchijah, one of the goldsmiths, repaired the wall as far as the housing for the temple servants and merchants, across from the inspection gate. Then he continued as far as the upper room at the corner. The other goldsmiths and merchants repaired the wall from the corner to the sheep gate. Sanballat was very angry when he learned that they were rebuilding the wall. He flew into a rage and mocked the Jews, saying in front of his friends and the Samarian army officers, "What does this bunch of poor, feeble Jews think they are doing? Do they think they can rebuild the wall in a single day just by offering a few sacrifices? Do they actually think they can make something of stones from a rubbish heap, and charred ones at that?" Tobiah the Ammonite, who was standing beside him, remarked, "That stone wall would collapse if even a fox walked along the top of it." Then I prayed, "Hear us, our God, for we are being mocked. May their scoffing fall back on their own heads, and may they themselves become captives in a foreign land. Do not ignore their guilt. Do not blot out their sins, for they have provoked you to anger here in front of the builders. At last the wall was completed to half its height around the entire city, for the people had worked with enthusiasm. But when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabs, Ammonites, and Ashdodites heard that the work was going ahead, and that the gaps in the wall of Jerusalem were being repaired, they were furious. They all made plans to come and fight against Jerusalem and throw us into confusion. But we prayed to our God and guarded the city day and night to protect ourselves. Then the people of Judah began to complain. The workers are getting tired, and there is so much rubble to be moved. We will never be able to build the wall by ourselves. Meanwhile, our enemies are saying, before they know what's happening, we will swoop down on them and kill them and end their work. The Jews who lived near the enemy came and told us again and again, they will come from all directions and attack us. So I placed armored guards behind the lowest parts of the wall in the exposed areas. I stationed the people to stand guard by families, armed with swords, spears, and bows. Then, as I looked over the situation, I called together the nobles and the rest of the people and said to them, don't be afraid of the enemy. Remember the Lord, who is great and glorious, and fight for your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. When our enemies heard that we knew of their plans and that God had frustrated them, we all returned to our work on the wall. But from then on, only half my men worked, while the other half stood guard with spears, shields, bows, and coats of mail. The leaders stationed themselves behind the people of Judah, who were building the wall. The laborers carried on their work with one hand supporting their load and one hand holding a weapon. All the builders had a sword belted to their side. The trumpeter stayed with me to sound the alarm. Hello, happy Sunday there, Luke Flaw. Good to see you. Then I explained to the nobles and the officials and all the people, the work is very spread out, and we are widely separated from each other along the wall. When you hear the blast of the trumpet, rush to wherever it is sounding. Then our God will fight for us. We worked early and late, from sunrise to sunset, and half the men were always on guard. I also told everyone living outside the walls to stay in Jerusalem. That way, they and their servants could help with guard duty at night and work during the day. During this time, none of us, not I, nor my relatives, nor my servants, nor the guards who were with me, ever took off our clothes. We carried our weapons with us at all times, even when we went for water. About this time, some of the men and their wives raised a cry of protest against their fellow Jews. They were saying, we have such large families. We need more food to survive. Others said, we have mortgaged our fields, vineyards, and homes to get food during the famine. And others said, we have had to borrow money on our fields and vineyards to pay our taxes. We belong to the same family as those who are wealthy, and our children are just like theirs. Yet we must sell our children into slavery just to get enough money to live. We have already sold some of our daughters, and we are helpless to do anything about it, for our fields and vineyards are already mortgaged to others. When I heard their complaints, I was very angry. After thinking it over, I spoke out against these nobles and officials. I told them, you are hurting your own relatives by charging interest when they borrow money. Then I called a public meeting to deal with the problem. At the meeting, I said to them, we are doing all we can to redeem our Jewish relatives who have had to sell themselves to pagan foreigners, but you are selling them back into slavery again. How often must we redeem them? And they had nothing to say in their defense. Then I pressed further. What you are doing is not right. Should you not walk in the fear of our God in order to avoid being mocked by enemy nations? I myself, as well as my brothers and my workers, have been lending the people money and grain. But now let us stop this business of charging interest. You must restore their fields, vineyards, olive groves, and homes to them this very day, and repay the interest you charged them when you lent them money, grain, new wine, and olive oil. They replied, we will give back everything and demand nothing more from the people. We will do as you say. Then I called the priests and made the nobles and the officials swear to do what they had promised. I shook out the folds of my robe and said, "If you fail to keep your promise, may God shake you like this from your homes and from your property." The whole assembly responded, "Amen." And they praised the Lord, and the people did as they had promised. For the entire 12 years that I was governor of Judah, from the 20th year to the 32nd year of the reign of King Artaxerxes, neither I nor my officials drew on our official food allowance. The former governors, in contrast, had laid heavy burdens on the people, demanding a daily ration of food and wine, besides 40 pieces of silver. Even their assistants took advantage of the people, but because I feared God, I did not act that way. I also devoted myself to working on the wall and refused to acquire any land, and I required all my servants to spend time working on the wall. I asked for nothing, even though I regularly fed 150 Jewish officials at my table, besides all the visitors from other lands. The provisions I paid for each day included 1 ox, 6 choice sheep or goats, and a large number of poultry. And every 10 days, we needed a large supply of all kinds of wine. Yet I refused to claim the governor's food allowance because the people already carried a heavy burden. Remember, O God, all that I have done for these people and bless me for it. All right, and that's where we're going to stop today. Okay, so we're reading the book of Nehemiah, and he is an exile still in Babylon, or, well, what once was Babylon. He's now under the Persian Empire, and King Artaxerxes is the emperor king at this point. I don't know if they called him emperors in the Bible, but he's the king, he's the ruler. And Nehemiah is the cupbearer, so he is basically a cupbearer was kind of like a sacrificial lamb to some extent. He's kind of like the maitre d'. He was in charge of making sure that um, the food that was brought out to the king was acceptable food. He made sure that it was prepared in the right way. He would always taste the food beforehand to make sure it wasn't poisoned by somebody in the kitchen staff, so on and so forth. And he would make sure that the king was given food and wine and drink to the king's liking. And this person would get to know the king very well and was kind of uh, a high position back in those days because people like to eat, and the kings wanted to make sure that they were well taken care of and not poisoned. So you're kind of like a bodyguard, you're kind of like a sacrificial lamb, but you're also around the people a lot because meals take time to eat, and so you would have to be present during the meal and sit there, wait, and serve on them. Um, and anyway, so he was one of them. He wasn't the only one. They took turns doing things. And so he went to the king one day after hearing the news that basically people have returned to Jerusalem, but things weren't going well. The wall is in total shambles, and it's basically a defenseless city. So people are scared. And when he hears this, he's just so overcome. He's overcome with just distraught for his own people, for this town, for what is going on. He wanted to hear good news, and he didn't hear it. And so he decides to fast and pray. He tells the king, he goes to the king, and he's looking like really depressed, if you will. And this was like totally against the rules. It's totally against the rules to go to the king looking depressed. In fact, they could just kill him right there in that moment. But he was like, I have to risk it. I really need the king to approve of me to go back, like, because in my heart, I want to go back to where my family was, and I want to go back and help and rebuild and give them some peace and security. And so he risked going sad to the king, And this is just one of my favorite little like lines, and not just lines, but like moments in scripture. Is that Nehemiah, it says, basically tells the king why he's sad, and the king asks, "Well, what do you want to do? What?" He's like, "What can I do for you?" So they obviously had a pretty good relationship, and because, like I said, he can't come in there sad. The king wants to have happy faces around him when he eats, right? Who wants to be like eating a meal when when there's like depression sitting around the room? It's just not how any of us really like to do things, and definitely not how somebody who's super powerful likes things. Anyway, so basically in this moment, Nehemiah, he had been fasting and praying beforehand, and so now the king asks him, "What do you want me to do?" And he takes this courage, and he basically says a prayer and his request in the same moment, right? His words that he says to the king, to the emperor, are both a request and a prayer at the same moment. And it's just so beautiful when you think of this, because so often we think of prayer as something we kind of do in our closet or by ourselves, and that's true to a lot of extent. But in this moment, he's willing, like he is appealing not just to the king or the emperor of the land that he's under the authority of, but he's appealing to God in the same moment with the same words. And so the way he presents it is just so beautiful, and to think of it in both a request to God and a request to the king at the same moment is such a beautiful thing. And to see the king respond so kindly to him that he gets all that he basically requests. He gets letters to have resources at his disposal. He gets an armored guard to take him down to Jerusalem to start this work. I mean, this is not a close. This is not something that is close, and I mean, it's hard to like imagine this, but you're riding horses and donkeys, and if you're gonna take stuff with you, like it's gonna take a long time. It took the people in the last book in Ezra nearly 4 months to go from the places of exile down to Jerusalem. And so it's going to take him maybe a little less time. He doesn't have as many people going with him, but it's still going to take time. And he's going to be gone for quite a while. It says he was governor for 12 years. So he stayed in this area, or he kind of helped rule and reign over this area for a little while. Um, so this process, though, to rebuild the temple and this, or to rebuild the walls, and this process to rebuild things is such a huge concept in scripture, is that things often, we kind of have these ebb and flow seasons. We saw that with the kings of Judah back in the day, and we just see it with the people. They follow, they don't follow, they follow, they don't follow. And in the same way, their physical structures, the wall around Jerusalem, like it's going to be there for a while, then it's going to get torn down, then they're going to rebuild. This back and forth concept is so common to the history of human beings, which means it's just as common to us today. But when you hear of these things, when you hear of these struggles of the people of God, or you hear the struggles of the people around you, and your heart is moved to help somebody, that is God, like, stirring your heart to help others, to be not just about yourself, right? I mean, Nehemiah doesn't even live in this area. In fact, he's going to have to go back to the area of captivity because he is a servant of the king, of the emperor. Like, so he's trying to help his people, to help the people group that he loves, that he's part of. He's trying to help them, even if it's not to his own personal benefit. And not only that, he wants to do this in a proper way. He sees like the people around in his own people group are oppressing it, like they're making slaves of their own people group. So wealthy people are charging interest and making the poor worse and worse. And he's like, guys, we can't do that. If we're a people group together, we have to be for one another. We have to be for one another. We can't just be about selfishness. And that's one of the huge storylines in all of the Bible is like when you're just about self and you're not thinking of others and thinking how we can help one another of the people group we're part of. Well, we see what selfishness does. You don't have to look very far in our lives. I mean, most of our world is as selfish as can be. Everyone wants to get ahead and they don't care who gets in the way. But in order to live in a community and to be in a community of people that thrives, you have to say no to self sometimes and yes to people group. And that means you need to follow some rules. You have to have some concept of other people. And you sometimes have to put somebody ahead of yourself in order to help. And generally, for better or worse, you kind of have to have some resources and some time on your hands to allow this to happen. Nehemiah wasn't a poor person by any means. It's hard for somebody who is not well off to do these things. And so, if you are privileged enough to have resources at your disposal and time at your disposal, and you just use them for self, you're likely oppressing others in the process. And to just see that and like to sit with that and say, man, is that true of my life? Is that how I use my time and my money and my knowledge base is just for self? Or am I part of something bigger that needs me to think on a bigger level? Well, let's use this story to kind of just probe our hearts, probe our minds, and our conscience to think, is my life just about me, or is it about more than that? And let's take the example here that Nehemiah sets for us that great things can happen when we sacrifice some of the comforts that we have, some of the privilege that we have for others, right? He's saying here at the end, I'm not even taking the food allowance that's allowed me from the king because I don't want the people oppressed anymore. So that's where we have to look in the mirror and find ourselves. So that's where we're going to leave this story. This story continues, so I'm going to kind of leave it a little cliffhanger there. But they're trying to rebuild. They're trying to set up this good infrastructure to create a place where there's peace and security for people, because that's what people want. So if you're helping in that process, good for you. If it's just about your own peace and security and we don't think of others sometimes, let's think about it. Let's think about the fact that maybe we have bigger roles to play than just our own self in life. We have maybe some sphere of influence that we can help others in their peace and journey in life as well. And maybe let's do something. Let's put something to action. Figure out a plan like Nehemiah did. Walk around the ruins, try to get involved, see what's actually happening with your own eyes, and then put your hand to the construction or to whatever to help repair. Okay, that's where we're gonna leave it today. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. I'm tired, man. I did not sleep super well. It was so hot during my camping trip. It was so hot. And I don't know about you guys, but I do like air conditioning. I do like air conditioning. But for the benefit of camping and for the benefit of the scouts and the things we're trying to accomplish, we had to give up sleeping in the air conditioning, sleep outside in the humidity, and just enjoy trying to help one another build a little community there. And we don't do that in air conditioning a lot in the scouts, which is fine. It's good. It's a good disruption from my normal life. Because I can take for granted how nice an air conditioner is. But man, I didn't take for granted, so I thank God for it, for good working AC. I hope you have AC in the summer. I know that's a thing of privilege by no means, so thank you for that. Anyways, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. We'll be back for the next part of the Bible story Tuesday morning. And then hopefully I'll be back later tonight for a poker session and Monday for a study stream. So hopefully I will see you guys on AC for the win. That is right. AC for the win. Hopefully I'll see you guys on the streams soon. Thanks for your comments as always. And I will see you later.